In the dimly lit confines of the battleship USS New Mexico's communications room, radioman Petty Officer First Class Walter Rougeux hunched over his equipment, his ears tuned to the crackling radio frequencies. As a member of the Fifth Fleet's Radio Intelligence Unit, Rougeux has been intercepting and decoding enemy transmissions since March, key to the Battle of Okinawa. But it's now May 1945. The enemy is getting desperate, and threats are more present than ever. Just as the sun begins setting, an urgent message from a nearby ship shatters the feeling of tranquility. Enemy aircraft have been detected approaching the task force. With New Mexico as the flagship, they are likely the primary target. The captain's order is immediate and urgent, pushing Rougeux into high gear. His skilled hands race across the dials, swiftly confirming their suspicion. Enemy planes are only minutes away. With this, the entire battleship springs into action. Alarms blaring, dozens of men run to man their battle stations and point their weapons, prepared to defend their vessel against the impending aerial assault. On December 7th, 1941, when the Japanese unleashed their surprise attack on Pearl Harbor, a dormant battleship was finally called to action after 23 years of peacetime service. USS New Mexico, also known by the nickname Queen, was initially launched in 1918. She arrived too late to serve in World War I, but she was now ready to cut her teeth, seeking revenge. She was the lead ship of her class, and 1,084 personnel operated her, all 32,000 tons displacement and 624 feet from bow to stern. By the time World War II began, the vessel had undergone several upgrades to become a well-armed battleship, with the main firepower coming from 12 big 14-inch guns grouped in 4 turrets, 2 in the front and 2 at the back of the ship. She also had 14 5-inch guns for attacking surface targets, spread all around her deck, and 8 5-inch anti-aircraft guns. On August 1st, 1942, the battleship New Mexico cut through the misty waters off San Francisco, setting a course for Hawaii. She quickly transitioned into a protector, escorting troop transports through the Pacific to the Fijis. She patrolled the shadowy waters of the Southwest Pacific, then pivoted back to Pearl Harbor, gearing up for the Aleutian Campaign, the only instance of Japanese occupation of American soil during the war. By May 17th, New Mexico anchored at a dock, Alaska's rugged outpost. Her guns roared to life, enforcing a stringent naval blockade around Attu. Each volley from her heavy artillery tore through the cold air, pounding Japanese positions and clearing the way for Allied troops on the ground. On July 21st, New Mexico's guns unleashed their fury on Kiska. Her relentless bombardment compelled the Japanese to a hurried evacuation. With her mission accomplished, she returned to Puget Sound Navy Yard for refurbishment. Reaching Hawaii in October, her crew began training for the landings in the Gilbert Islands. In November 1943, New Mexico supported the Battle of Makin Island before engaging in the Marshall Islands campaign. Her active role continued in the Marianas Campaign of mid-1944, bombarding Tinian, Saipan, and Guam. During the Battle of the Philippine Sea on June 18th, she was attacked by enemy aircraft, but her crew was able to repel the onslaught. A month later, her heavy fire was instrumental to the liberation of Guam. Her aged and growing collection of battle scars sent her for a much-needed overhaul at Puget Sound from August to October 1941. Soon after, New Mexico was back in the Philippines, aiding the Mindoro landings in December. In January 1945, as the Allies inched closer and closer to the Japanese mainland, New Mexico was part of the bombardment force of the invasion of Luzon, the Philippines. However, the Japanese tactics were growing increasingly desperate by this point, and kamikaze strikes were becoming a more common weapon. The Queen battleship was about to find this out the hard way. On January 6th, while firing as part of the pre-invasion bombardment at Lingayen Gulf, a Japanese aircraft came screaming from the skies, evading New Mexico's anti-aircraft efforts and striking right into the battleship's bridge. The attack on the command center of the ship cost the lives of 31 men, most of them part of the command staff. Along with essential navigational equipment, the attack robbed New Mexico of its commanding officer, Captain Robert W. Fleming. But rather than giving up, the action did not knock her out of the war, though she was withdrawn for repairs at Pearl Harbor. Once the work was completed, New Mexico was back in action and supported the invasion of Okinawa, where her biggest challenge awaited still. The battleship USS New Mexico returned to action in late March, just in time for the precursor operations to the amphibious landings in Okinawa. As the largest in the chain of the Ryukyu Islands southwest of Japan, Okinawa was a primary objective for the Allies. Taking it would provide an airbase from which bombers could strike Japan. From there, they could cut off Japan from its nearby occupied territories, disrupting supply lines and weakening the Empire's ability to sustain its war effort. Beginning on March 26th, as part of Task Force 54, New Mexico played a crucial role in naval gunfire support, bombarding Japanese positions, softening enemy defenses, and assisting advancing ground troops. Additionally, the battleship contributed to the fleet's defense against potential surface threats and was instrumental in anti-aircraft defense, countering the ever-persistent danger of kamikaze attacks. After USS Indianapolis, the flagship of Admiral Raymond Spruance, commander of the Fifth Fleet, was hit by a kamikaze on March 31st, very early in the campaign. Spruance transferred his flag to New Mexico. Even after the landings, the battleship stayed in the vicinity. By May, the Battle of Okinawa was in full swing, with fierce ground combat dragging out over nearly 3 months. As sunset approached on May 12, 1945, USS New Mexico was anchored at Rougeux Bay, off the coast of Okinawa, after a long day of operations, replenishing provisions and ammunition at Kuramaretto. That very morning, Admiral Spruance ominously noted that the day had, quote, good kamikaze weather. At 6:56 p.m., the destroyer Shubrick, which was nearby on a radar picket station, reported enemy aircraft flying inbound in Rougeux Bay, with United States aircraft trailing behind in pursuit. With the Fifth Fleet's flagship only 35 miles away from the reported position. Now on high alert, the ship's commander ordered his men to turn on their own search radar, and they quickly identified the same targets, now 21 miles away at 7 p.m. With this, Radioman Petty Officer First Class Walter L. Rougeux got to work. As an intercept operator aboard USS New Mexico, Rougeux had spent the last few months providing indications and warnings to the ship's captain by intercepting and deciphering Japanese communications used to track their aircraft on their way to a strike. Working under immense pressure, Rougeux used time, speed, and distance to calculate when the kamikaze aircraft would arrive to strike their beloved battleship. He knew it was only a matter of minutes. At 7:05 p.m., when the Sky Lookout sighted 4 aircraft moving in a formation across their ship's stern, there was no denying it. USS Mexico was about to be attacked by a kamikaze for the second time in 4 months. As the largest ship in Rougeux Bay, New Mexico became the target for the Japanese army fighters approaching the battleship, while under fire from several Allied ships in the growing darkness. Less than a minute after the sighting, both of New Mexico's Mark 33 gunfire control directors were ordered to aim their systems toward the left rear side of the ship. Alarms were sounded, and the crew was urgently called to battle stations. 2 aircraft came in from the front, and 2 more, a Frank Ki-84 and a George II N-1KJ, flew behind USS New Mexico. The first kamikaze attacker maneuvered to make his approach along the right side of the battleship. As it came in, New Mexico's guns, including 4 large ones and numerous smaller anti-aircraft weapons, fired intensely at the approaching enemy. While under heavy fire, the George II still managed to strike New Mexico with its machine gun. But just as it was about to crash into the ship, a large shell from the battleship exploded right under it, causing it to lift, catch fire, and barely miss hitting the front of the vessel, crashing into the sea on the left side instead, resulting in minimal damage to New Mexico. But this was all part of a well-planned ruse. Now, with the American battleship's defenses focused on the first attacker, the second plane had a much, much clearer path to strike. And the pilot did just that. Capitalizing on the diversion, the pilot aboard the second plane, a fast Ki-84 Frank carrying a 500-pound bomb, made a wide orbit and initiated his run. The Japanese pilot came in at such high speed that the gun directors were unable to swing back to the second target in time, leaving the smaller 40 and 20mm mounts with about an 8 to 10 second window to engage. But despite several hits on the bogey, it was not enough. At 7:12 p.m., the second aircraft crashed right into the ship's gun deck on the starboard tub, smashing into the forward stack just outside the watertight door, where Radioman First Class Rougeux and his shipmates were working, taking his and 50 more lives in an instant. The bomb inside the plane detonated upon impact, puncturing the funnel. The aircraft itself then plummeted to the base of the funnel, tearing a large hole that caused ready service ammunition to fall through and tumble down into the ship's boilers. In an instant, a massive explosion erupted at the heart of the ship, putting 3 of New Mexico's 4 boilers out of commission. According to witnesses who were lucky enough to survive that day, The top of the stack looked like a blowtorch. However, this was more or less fortunate, as the smokestack directed the force of the explosion upwards, lessening the fire's severity on the main area where the ship's guns were. After the incident, staff members looked for Admiral Spruance, who was missing. Moments later, the flag lieutenant finally found the Admiral, personally manning a fire hose with some of his crewmen. Within 21 minutes, he and the damage control teams had the fires put out. It was clear to Admiral Spruance and all other senior officials aboard that the attack had been well coordinated and delivered by skillful and intelligent pilots. This was further confirmed when they discovered the pilot who crashed into the ship was a sergeant. And while the damage was quickly controlled, the 6 minutes between visual contact and crashing came at a high cost. In the events of May 12, 1945, a total of 51 sailors and Marines, mainly those manning the anti-aircraft guns, lost their lives, with an additional 100 wounded. Casualties came from the kamikaze crash, as well as from the strafing fire of both planes and friendly fire that came as the aircraft dove onto the battleship. But despite the devastating losses and damage to the ship, Admiral Spruance was adamant that the tough old Queen could still remain in the line. New Mexico continued firing on Japanese targets and served as the task force's flagship until May 28th, when Spruance turned over command of the Fifth Fleet to Admiral William Halsey Jr. and chose the brand new battleship Missouri as his flagship. After this, New Mexico proceeded to Leyte for repairs and training for the expected invasion of the Japanese mainland. In early August, New Mexico continued its role in bombarding enemy positions, shelling industrial targets on the Japanese mainland to weaken Japan's war-making capacity. But the deployment of the atomic bombs occurred before any invasion could happen. During the formal surrender ceremony, where the official surrender documents were signed on September 2nd aboard USS Missouri in Tokyo Bay, New Mexico was nearby. The following year, with the war well over, Petty Officer Walter Rougeux was posthumously awarded the Bronze Star for meritorious achievement in May 1946. 2 months later, the battleship USS New Mexico was decommissioned. After a nearly 30-year-long career, the Queen earned many distinctions for her role in the war, including 6 battle stars for her wartime service in the Aleutian Islands, the Philippines, and Okinawa, in key engagements against Axis forces. But the battleship's post-war utility was limited in the face of naval modernization, and she was sold for scrap by July 1948.